Hi, my name is Chris with HISUN Motors, and today we're going to be installing this 62-inch snowplow on the utility UTV behind me. Now, please keep in mind we do have mounting options for sport UTV and ATVs as well, but today I'm going to be installing it on the HS500 that's behind me. So for this installation, you're going to need an 18, 15, 14, 10, 12, and 8 millimeter sockets. We have both deep and standard, an 8, 10, and 12 millimeter wrench, an 8 millimeter Allen socket, a ratchet with an extension, an adjustable wrench, needle nose pliers, and if you have it, an impact wrench. So before we get started, I'm going to go over what's included in the kit. Here we have the utility UTV mount. As I mentioned before, we do have mounting options for sport UTV and ATVs. This is the utility mount. That's that. We also have mounting hardware. So we'll get this put off to the side and get into the plow itself. Now, sitting on top, this is the ATV mount. Like I mentioned before, this is a UTV, so we'll set that to the side. We don't need it. Here we have the plow arm. This is our mounting hardware. So in here you'll have all your nuts and bolts and washers. We have the adjustment arm for the angle. We have the 2 feet that the blades sit on, the tension springs, as well as the pulley. And I'm not going to take it out yet, but we do have the actual angle adjustment in here. Last but not least, we have the blade. I won't take it out of the box yet, but this is our 62-inch blade that we'll be installing on the unit behind me. So the first part of the installation is going to be getting the mounting bracket bolted up to the unit. Both the HS500 and 700 have a skid plate on the bottom that we have to get out of the way in order to expose the mounting holes, but I'll get to that in a second. This is how the bracket sits on the unit. We have 2 bolts that go through here and another 2 right here. So first we're going to remove these 7 8 millimeter bolts that hold on the skid plate. So once we have the skid plate removed, that exposes the mounting holes for the bracket. We have 2 right here and another 2 down here. These 2 holes here will use the included 10 millimeter bolts. And there's another 2 holes here that will use the included 12 millimeter bolts. Our next step in the installation is to assemble the adjustment arm. You're going to need obviously the adjustment arm and these 3 plates here. First, we're going to use this, and this sits right on here and get these holes lined up. Next, you're going to want to take this bracket. It sits making sure this semicircle is facing this way. That'll sit right there. And then finally this piece, this sits with the notch facing this way as well. And they sit on here using these 12 millimeter bolts along with these lock nuts. So now that we got this bracket mounted on the arm, we're going to go ahead and move on to installing this. But before I do that, I do want to mention that you don't want to tighten these bolts too tight. This does need to be able to rotate on here like this. But we'll get that lined up. There's a little notch in here that you want to make sure goes all the way through. You want to take this arm, this peg sits right here. And then you're going to want to take this spring, put it right under the end of this. That's going to put some tension on the arm. Then we're going to take this pulley and take this bottom cotter pin out. Set that to the side. Then this is going to sit right here. So this pin will go through and hold this arm onto this plate here. It's going to take a little bit of elbow grease to get it on there, but you should be able to. Get it started. Actually go through this way. washer back on. And get our pin back through here. Just like that. Now we'll be able to lift this arm up, adjust the angle as we want, lock it back in place. So our next step is to get the 8mm Allen bolt and the 15mm lock nut and get it into this corner. I've already put this one in. The bolt goes in from the outside. So now that we have the arm over here at the unit, we're ready to actually mount it on the bracket. Just have it sitting on the floor here. We're going to take these two pins and get it in there. So our next step is to get the accessories put onto the winch. First, we're going to take this first eye loop, put on one of the nuts along with a washer. And it's going to slide into this hole here from the bottom, and you will secure it with another nut, or another washer, and another nut. And we'll just get this on here loose right now. We'll have to adjust it again later. Get that on there. Next, you'll take one of the feet, slide on one of these nuts. This will have to get adjusted again later, so don't have to be too specific with it now. Slide it through the bottom here and secure it with another nut. Now I've done the same thing on the other side. This is just for demonstration purposes for now. Get that on there. So when mounting the blade onto the arm, you're going to want to stack your washers on your bolt like this. The larger washer, the smaller washer. You'll notice this smaller washer is the same size as the diameter as this hole on the blade, so that'll sit right in there. And this next part, you're going to want a second person to help you pick it up. We can get it mounted on the arm. So once you get these two base bolts tightened, you'll notice that the blade will want to fall forward. In order to prevent that, you'll want to get the spring installed. I already have this one on. I'll go ahead and show you how to get this one on. You'll just slide it through this hole here. You may need some pliers, but you can actually just stretch it yourself and get it on there. And you can adjust the tension on those by tightening up these two bolts here. So our final step is to get the blade mounted up to the winch. And how we're going to do that is we're going to remove your winch hook by taking out this cotter pin. Just bend that straight. And falls right out. Take the hook off. Next, we're going to come down to this little pulley here and take the pin out of there. Grab onto it. There we go. Keep that washer. We're going to need that later. Now, this little pulley we're not going to need. It's not going to fit with our application, so we'll just set that to the side. And we're going to take our winch cable along with the pin that we took out and get it in there like that. Oh, forgot the washer. Now that we have that on there, our winch can now actuate and lift and lower our hook. Go through and turn the ignition on and we can test it out. So that concludes the installation of our 62-inch snowplow. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to our customer support team or visit us at HISUNMotors.com.